Hey guys, so today I will be talking to you about Newton's three laws of motion. Okay, so in class we've lately been talking about how objects move, how objects, what is their trajectory, and lots of other stuff, right? Their position, height, whatever. But we haven't really studied why the objects we're studying move the way they move. So it only makes sense that we study that next. So to begin with, we need to find out what is motion.
Motion. Motion is when an object changes position and can be represented mathematically through calculation of speed, velocity, and acceleration. Motion is one of the key topics in physics. Everything in the universe moves. It might only be a small amount of movement and very slow, but movement does happen everywhere.
Now that you know what motion is, we will next have to know what or who Isaac Newton was. Which, I mean, they're his laws, right? So it's only fair if we also study who he is.
Sir Isaac Newton was probably one of the greatest scientists and mathematicians that ever lived. He was born in England on December 25th, 1643, which was the same year Galileo died. He lived for 85 years. While Newton was in college, he was writing his ideas in a journal. Newton had new ideas about motion, which he called his three laws of motion, which were listed in his Principia Mathematica Philosophia Naturalis. He also had ideas about gravity, the diffraction of light, and forces. Newton's ideas were so good that Queen Anne knighted him in 1705. His accomplishments laid the foundation for modern science and revolutionized the world. Sir Isaac Newton died in 1727.
Or did he? Or did he? Or did he? Or did he? Or did he?
Okay, so now that you know who Isaac Newton was and what is motion, we will begin to study what his laws of motion are. And there's three, as the title has it. And these are what they are.
Newton's first law of motion. Every object in a state of uniform motion tends to remain in that state of motion unless an external force is applied to it, and is often termed simply the law of inertia. In simpler terms, can be said as an object in motion will remain in motion unless acted upon by an unequal force. Newton's second law of motion. The relationship between the object's mass m, its acceleration a, and the applied force F is equal to m times a. Acceleration and force are vectors. In this law, the direction of the force vector is the same as the direction of the acceleration vector. This is the most powerful of Newton's three laws because it allows quantitative calculations of dynamics, how velocities change when forces are applied. Newton's third law of motion. For every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. This law is exemplified by what happens if we step off a boat onto the bank of a lake. As we move in the direction of the shore, the boat tends to move in the opposite direction.
Okay, so now me and some friends will show you more in depth with examples what these three laws are and how they apply into everyday physics and modern life.
Newton's first law of motion. An object in motion will stay in motion unless acted upon by an outside force. It will also maintain its own direction. Focus on the ball.
second law of motion is often stated as force is equal to mass times acceleration, which means the more mass, the more force is needed to push an object, as shown. Although this bowling ball might have less volume than a guitar, it requires more force to lift up the bowling ball than the guitar, as shown.
The third law of motion. This means for every force there is a reaction force that is equal in size but opposite in direction.
Those were Isaac Newton's 3 laws of motion. I hope you learned something today. And remember, Isaac Newton isn't dead.
Isn't dead.